නිවසේ මෙවැනි මතු පිට රැඳෙන විස බීජ 99.9%ක්ම විනාශ කරන විම් ක්ලීනර්ස්.
Tonight, the race against time. Daily vaccination records tumble once again as researchers announce a 94% response from the first Covishield dose.
The immunogenicity is very good with regard to Covishield vaccination after 28 days, and also we found that 97.1% had neutralizing antibodies.
New developments. The WHO says post-COVID symptoms could persist from between 3 to 9 months.
Some of the most common symptoms of post-COVID-19 condition include shortness of breath, cognitive dysfunction, as well as fatigue.
Seeking the truth. The remains of 16-year-old Ishalini exhumed in preparation for a second post-mortem examination. Major questions. Express Pearl Captains Council questions Harbour Master's ability to administer Sri Lanka's shipping sector while failing to protect crucial data recordings. Into the limelight. Two major sapphire clusters set to fetch up to $150 million at an international auction in November. All that and much more coming up on First at 9. This Friday, the 30th of July, 2021.
හඳුන්වා දෙන නව ක්‍රියා ෂැම්පූ තුන්ගුණයක් ක්‍රියාකාරී ඇන්ටි ඩෑන්ඩ්‍රෆ් තාක්ෂණයෙන් ඉසේ සම පෝෂණය කර ඉසුරු ඉවත් කරමින් නැවත ඇතිවීම වළකයි. නව ක්‍රියා ෂැම්පූ.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening, welcome to First at 9. I'm Dhammike Kanaka. Now, a study conducted by the University of Sri Jayawardenepura has found that the first dose of the Covishield vaccine produced an antibody response in 93% of its subjects, which could last for as long as 16 weeks. University officials also say that unlike existing data that shows the ability to mix and match the Pfizer vaccine with AstraZeneca, the same cannot be done with the Sinopharm vaccine. There was, meanwhile, another record on the immunization front with over 500,000 COVID-19 vaccine doses administered yesterday.
The Department of Immunology and Cell Biology at the University of Sri Jayawardenepura has conducted two studies on the immunogenicity of the AstraZeneca Covishield vaccine, which was rolled out at the inception of Sri Lanka's inoculation drive. The first had been on the healthcare workers who received the first dose in February and March.
We have recruited 655 individuals when they were given the vaccination back in February and March, and we have assessed the immunogenicity among them after 1 month, and we observed that the immunogenicity is very good with regard to Covishield vaccination after 28 days, and we found that 93.4% developed antibody response against SARS-CoV-2 virus after inoculation of the Covishield vaccine, and also we found that 97.1% had neutralizing antibodies. Those are the ones which we say the good antibodies, which will give you protection against contracting the bad disease or prevent you dying from the disease.
Owing to supply constraints, around 500,000 persons who received the first dose of the AstraZeneca's jab are still waiting for their second dose. So what of their safety?
We had 553 people participating, giving us blood to investigate the antibodies and T and B cell responses, and from this study we found that about 93% of the individuals, they had antibodies even at 16 weeks and beyond. But the key finding here is the neutralizing antibody has decreased when it comes to 16 weeks by about 26.1%. So this is alarming because neutralizing antibodies are the ones which gives you protection, and when there is a significant reduction of the neutralizing antibodies, your protection, especially against the emerging variants, for example alpha and delta variants, you will not be protected when you don't have adequate amount of neutralizing antibody. Do we have enough memory cells to generate antibodies when we get the second dose? So for that we assessed the existing memory T and B cell responses in this cohort who received single dose at 16 weeks and beyond, and found that they had very good memory T and B cell response. When they get the second dose, there is a theoretical possibility possibility that they will produce enough antibodies to give protection against different variants. At 16 weeks, the neutralizing antibodies against variants were almost negligible, which increases a person's risk of getting a COVID infection, especially with the new variants. With single dose, it will give about 33% protection, especially against Delta variant.
There were also rumors of instances where people had falsified their data and obtained the first dose of the Sinopharm vaccine after having had the first dose of the AstraZeneca jab. The expert view is that this is a no-go.
You cannot mix and match with other vaccines like Sinopharm, but although there are data to support that AstraZeneca can be mixed with Pfizer, there are no data to support that the AstraZeneca can be mixed with Sinopharm. So that's not an option.
In any case, the national inoculation program is at full throttle. The target is to vaccinate the country's population of over 30s by September. And yesterday saw the biggest leap to that end being taken. A record 515,830 persons were given the jab. It included both first and second doses of the Sinopharm vaccine and the first dose of the Moderna and Pfizer jabs. The previous record for a single-day vaccination was 437,878, recorded on Monday. By the end of yesterday, 418,494 Sinopharm first doses were administered, while 56,738 second doses of the same vaccine were also given. 38,430 people received the first dose of the Pfizer jab, while 2,168 people received the Moderna first dose. So far, over 9.1 million people has received at least one dose of a vaccine against COVID-19. And from this figure, 2,033,809 people are fully inoculated.
අඩසේ වසකට වැඩි ජනතා විශ්වාසය නව සංයෝගයකින් රයිනෝ රෝෆිං සහ සීලිං ෂීට්.
The Minister of Health, meanwhile, warns that the public might not be able to continue enjoying their current liberties if the daily COVID-19 infections continue to surge. As such, the public was urged to strictly adhere to the health and safety guidelines if they want to continue their enjoying freedom without strict restrictions.
The country's daily COVID-19 infections shot past the 2,000 mark for the first time yesterday since the 23rd of last month. The Ministry of Health says that a dearth in sufficient data is preventing officials from confirming as to whether the uptick in daily caseloads seen over the past weeks could be the doing of the Delta variant. Nevertheless, officials also say that there is a 20 to 30% chance of the Delta variant contributing to the infections found from Colombo, and that it is possible that the variant is present in every district. Yesterday's daily caseload was 2,370, with the Western Province confirming the most with 984 cases. Gambha, also part of the Western Province, recorded the most of the cases from any district with 396. It is not only the daily caseload which has been on the rise in recent days. The daily deaths have also been on the up. Yesterday, it was 66, taking the death toll to 4,324.
Of the total deaths due to COVID, majority of them have not received even a single dose of vaccination. Therefore, I urge the public to coordinate with your area PHI and get yourself vaccinated. In developed countries like USA and other countries, when they reach a high target in vaccination, some health authorities discourage the use of masks, but within the span of say 2 to 3 weeks, again increasing incidents in the COVID cases were reported. So therefore, I urge the Sri Lankan population to adhere to the health guidelines. Immunization coupled with public safety measures is very important to prevent the spread of COVID.
Deputy Director General of Education and Research at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Hemantha Herath, meanwhile, warns that the reinstated liberties will be at stake if the uptrend continues.
We have to take this very seriously. This situation can be a normal up and down that can be observed in an epidemic. However, we should not be complacent and we should not take this lightly, as the number of cases reported, especially in the Western Province, has gone up, and this can end up in a much more serious situation, leading to imposing of further travel restrictions and tightening of health guidelines.
As for today, 1,367 fresh COVID-19 cases have been confirmed in Sri Lanka so far. That puts the number of active cases in the island at 26,301. Amid high infection numbers, however, there are considerable recoveries as well. 1,716 patients were confirmed to have recovered from the virus today, pushing the overall figure to 275,212.
Now, the World Health Organization says that many COVID-19 infected patients have continued to exhibit post-COVID symptoms that reportedly last as long as 9 months. Among a long list of such symptoms, the most common to have been reported among many who recovered from the virus have been shortage of breath, cognitive dysfunction and fatigue.
Countries all over the world, in their own way, is fixated on one thing at present: how to stop the spread of COVID-19 and what can be done to keep the people from dying from the virus. The general practice, even in Sri Lanka, is to have COVID patients admitted to a dedicated treatment facility and, to put it crudely, keep them alive for 14 days until the virus load in the patients reduced to the point where they cannot infect others. After that, they are released. It all sounds simple enough, but for some, it may not be.
Some of the most common symptoms of post-COVID-19 condition include shortness of breath, cognitive dysfunction, which people call brain fog, as well as fatigue. Those are the three most common. Other symptoms that patients or people may experience include things such as chest pain, trouble speaking. Some have described anxiety or depression, muscle aches, fever, loss of smell, loss of taste. So the list is quite long.
As for the duration of these symptoms, it could be anywhere between 3 months to 9 months. Any patients suffering from these post-COVID symptoms are also urged to seek medical care.
Our understanding of the duration or how long this condition lasts is still not completely clear. It has been described that the condition can last 3 months. Some have described as long as 6 months and potentially up to 9 months. But as you know, we're still about 1.5 years into the pandemic. There's still more studies that need to be done to follow patients who develop post-COVID-19 condition and to see when their symptoms, we hope, resolve. Any patient or person who develop post-COVID-19 condition should go seek care. The care pathways should be multidisciplinary in nature, meaning that they can include your primary care provider, as well as relevant specialists, rehab professionals, social care workers, psychosocial workers, mental health professionals, and that's the type of care people with post-COVID-19 condition should receive. In regards to specific treatment, we don't yet have one. The reason is because we don't yet understand why this develops.
Meanwhile, a further 820 COVID-19 infections have been confirmed in the island, taking the overall tally for the day to 2,455. Now, moving on with other local stories, the Colombo Magistrates Court heard today that 48 dolphins, 8 whales and 417 sea turtles have died so far as a result of the Express Pearl fire and the subsequent ecological disaster. Though the Attorney General's Department highlighted the shortcomings of the vessel's local agent, the local or legal counsel representing the ship's captain asked a critical question, which was, how can the harbour master, who cannot even protect the data on the data recorder located at his office, protect the ships coming to the island?
The case pertaining to the feeder vessel Express Pearl catching fire was taken up before the Colombo Magistrates Court today. Appearing for the Criminal Investigation Division, Deputy Solicitor General Madhava Tennakun told the court that 48 dolphins, 8 whales and 417 sea turtles have so far died as a result of this incident. He added that the water samples were obtained from the vicinity of the vessel and sent to the government analyst, and the subsequent investigation revealed traces of petroleum in the samples. He further noted that on the 26th of this month, the approach of an Indian ship with a nitric acid leak on board was communicated to the Colombo port. Since the ship's local agent informed the Colombo port of the existing danger within the vessel, the Deputy Solicitor General said the danger was averted. He accused the local agent of the Express Pearl of not following similar procedure. He went on to say that the Colombo port and the country as a whole are brought to disrepute by certain irresponsible utterances made pertaining to the case, and it greatly inconveniences state officials. In response, the legal counsel representing the vessel's captain, President's Counsel Sarat Jayamana, posed the question, how can the harbour master, who cannot even protect the data of the data recorder located at his own office, protect the ships arriving in this country, adding that it is inappropriate to pin the blame on others and bring the country to disrepute. Following the submissions, the magistrate ordered the case to be taken up again on the 18th of August.
The tragic death of 16-year-old Ishalini, a domestic worker at MP Rishad Badiuddin's residence, has exposed the ugly underbelly of a common practice that has been long considered a lucrative economic opportunity for low-income families struggling to manage. With authorities now rushing to implement knee-jerk changes to the country's legislation and offer more legal protection for minors, questions, however, remain as to how this issue went ignored for such a long time. In any case, Ishalini's remains were exhumed today in line with a court order and was sent for a second post-mortem examination.
The death of a 16-year-old domestic worker employed at former Minister Rishad Bathiuddin's residence earlier this month has shocked the nation and exposed what has long been a common practice in Sri Lanka's more affluent sections of society. Before now, employing young, mainly female domestic workers as cleaners, nannies and kitchen help in households in Colombo and the suburbs has never been viewed as anything more than the fulfillment of a specific need. That need for poverty-stricken families in villages throughout the island to eke out a meagre existence in an environment where opportunities are scarce has, however, long overshadowed the need to ensure proper protection of the loved ones they send out into the cities. This is what makes 16-year-old Ishalini's heart-rending tragedy of physical, emotional and sexual exploitation at the hands of the people charged with upholding her rights all the more shocking. Meanwhile, what the police have uncovered so far about the 9 months of her employment at the MP's residence has led to the arrests of MP Bathiuddin's wife Shihabdeen Ayesha, her father Mohammad Shihabdeen, her brother Shihabdeen Ismat and one other individual who allegedly brokered Ishalini's employment. The charges being filed against them range from human trafficking to child cruelty, with more expected to be filed as investigations continue, including into almost a dozen other former domestics. Meanwhile, Ishalini's remains were ordered to be exhumed today by the Nuwara Magistrates Court this week for a second post-mortem to be conducted after the initial report concluded that she had been subjected to long-term sexual exploitation. Accordingly, the exhumation was carried out at the Dayagama Cemetery this morning in the presence of a 3-member Judicial Medical Committee and Nuwara Magistrate Lushaka Kumari Jayaratna. Her remains were then transported under heavy police guard to the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital, where the post-mortem is to be conducted. Meanwhile, as protests continue to be held in estate communities calling for swift justice for those held responsible for Ishalini's death, it remains to be seen what legislative changes will be brought about and whether firm action will be taken to curb what is now increasingly being recognized as an epidemic of systemic abuse of minors in Sri Lanka. However, what is more shocking is that it finally took the death of a young woman with her whole life ahead of her for society to realize that there remains a lot more to be done to protect its most vulnerable members.
We will see you shortly. Bear with us.
Big 3.
Welcome back. You're watching First at 9. Now, the National Gem and Jewellery Authority announced today that the 510 kilogram Serendipity Sapphire unveiled early this week will be auctioned at an international gem and jewellery exhibition this November in China and has already attracted significant interest despite its $100 million valuation. Following this, businessman Earl Gunasekara today unveiled another massive find. This time, an 80 kilogram blue sapphire cluster, which he says will also make the journey to the show in November, where he expects to fetch around $50 million.
The unveiling of a 510 kilogram star sapphire cluster earlier this month by a gem dealer in Ratnapura caught the attention of international media outlets who speculated on its value running into an estimated $100 million. However, according to reports, the discovery of the priceless gem cluster named the Serendipity Sapphire happened almost a year before, with the owner biding his time to have it properly cleaned and prepared for its recent unveiling. With that, the owner of the cluster has decided to put it up for international auction through the National Gem and Jewellery Authority and added that already numerous inquiries have been received. Meanwhile, today, gem businessman Earl Gunasekara also took the opportunity to unveil another massive find, this time an 80 kilogram blue sapphire cluster discovered in Rakwana 5 years ago. The announcement was officially made to State Minister of Gem and Jewellery Industries Lohan Ratwatta by Gunasekara. Following this, officials of the National Gem and Jewellery Authority visited Gunasekara's Colombo residence today and inspected the specimen.
මේකත් ඔය කොරොන්ඩම් ෆැමිලි එකේ සෆාය එකක් ක්‍රිස්ටල් ෆෝමේෂන් එකක් කැරට් වලින් ගත්තොත් කැරට් ලක්ෂ 3ක් විතර බරයි ගලේ මේ වගේ ගල් කෑල්ල කෑල්ල කපලා ගන්න පුළුවන් ගල් නෙමෙයි අරගෙන ස්වර්ණාභරණ වලට පළඳින්න මුදු පළඳින්න එහෙම ඒ වර්ගයේ ගලක් නෙමෙයි කියන ගොඩක් අය දැන් සමහර කාලට මේ වටින්නේ නැහැ මැරිච්ච ගල් කියලා කිව්වත් මේවා අවුරුදු මිලියන් ගණන් පරණ මැණික් ගල් නිසා මේකේ කෞතුක වස්තුවක් හැටියට වටිනාකමක් තමයි තියෙන්නේ මේ ගලත් අපි නොවැම්බර් මාසයේ චීනී පවත්වන ප්‍රදර්ශනයට මේ ගලත් ගෙනියන්න අපි ලෑස්ති කරනවා. ඇත්තටම මේවා මිල ගැන තීරණය වෙන්නේ ඉල්ලුම මත.
Meanwhile, the owner of the specimen, Earl Gunasekara, says that he estimates its value to be in the range of $50 million.
ඉතින් ලංකාවේ හම්බෙන සෆාය වර්ගයේ ගලක් බවට අද අපේ වැලියේෂන් වලට තක්සේරුවට ආපු මහත්තුරු ඒක තක්සේරු කරුවා බව ඒ වෙළඳ පොළට දාලා හොඳ මිලක් නොවැම්බර් මාසයේ අරන් දෙන්න එකඟ වුණා. මම අර කලින් ඩොලර් මිලියන 100ක් කීපෙකින් දෙකෙන් පංගුවක්වත් බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. මොකද මගේ ගල මම හිතනවා අර ගලට වඩා හොඳට ෆෝමේෂන් තියෙනවා මේකේ. ඒ අනුව මම තීරණය කරලා තිබුණා අද ඊයේ මේ ගල හම්බෙච්ච වෙලාවෙම මේක සඳගිරිසායට අපේ අනුරාධපුරයේ හදලා ඉවර කරන්න තියෙන සඳගිරිසායට මේකෙන් ලැබෙන මුදලින් හරි අඩක්කට කිට්ටු වෙන්න හරි කමන්නේ වියදම් කළා ඒ සෑයේ කටයුතු අවසන් කරන්න මම හිතන්නේ මේ වෙලාවේ යම්කිසි ආර්ථිකයට අපිට ශක්තියක් වෙන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒ වගේ විදේශ විනිමය ගෙනල්ලා මම ඉතාමත්ම සන්තෝෂයි.
In other local stories, police raid conducted in Bandaragama this morning resulted in the seizing of 45 kilograms of heroin, which had been stashed at a residence in the area of Rerukana. The operation was launched following a tip-off, and the police say that the haul belongs to a suspect who operates a major drug racket from Dubai.
The raid had been conducted this morning in the area of Rerukana in Bandaragama upon information received by the police crime division of the Kalutara range. During the operation, 2 travelling bags which were about to be transported in a 3-wheeler from a residence came under police scrutiny. 45 kilograms of heroin had been found inside the bags and a 23-year-old suspect had been apprehended over the stash. Investigations have revealed that the drugs belong to an individual named Salindu Malchitha alias Panudure Salindu, who operates a drug network remotely from Dubai.
In addition to that, investigations have revealed that there is a network operated in the area. The key operators have been identified and further investigations are being conducted by Kalutara Range Crimes Division along with Police Narcotic Bureau.
We will see you once more on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is First at 9. Now, Sri Lankan shares closed lower today and posted a weekly loss, dragged down by financials and consumer staples stocks. The CSE All Share Price Index settled 0.25% lower at 8,120.48, falling 0.2% this week, as the S&P SL 20 index of more liquid stocks fell 9.37 points to close at 3,062.17. With that, here's Dimantha Matthew with today's stock market report.
Today we again saw the market reverting back into the red territory, where the ASPI dipped by around 20 points. So the SPI managed to close this week at 8,120 points. So continuing to maintain the above 8,000 territory. So with this, overall we are seeing today a bit of a negativity, some sort of a selling pressure in the market. So at the start of the month we saw continuous gains in the index, and then towards moving into this week and starting from last week we saw the volatility taking place in the index and some profit taking coming in, and finally there was some recovery in the index as well. However, today being the last day of the month, we are seeing again some selling pressure in the market. Overall, we saw.
Now, the rupee meanwhile remained unchanged at 202.89 cents against the US dollar today. Now let's take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee fared against other major currencies during the day. And that's it from all of us here at First at 9. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.